Thank y'all so much for dropping in on this video. If you're new here, welcome. If you're coming back, I know this is a very different looking journal than you're accustomed to seeing me make. And I'm so glad that I tried this. I don't. And for those of you that are new here, I like a lot of bright colors, children's illustrations, think Little Golden Book. Fun books, you know. I typically don't do the vintage grunge Edith Holden type, but I loved this process. I've done a few, but anyway, let's get into this. You don't want to hear me talk. Let's talk about this closure. So basically what I did here, you can see I've left a lot of this on here, and I'm going to leave it. I'm not going to cut it. This is tied in such a way that you can loosen it if you want to. This can be unpinned very easily, as you can see here. Okay. And if your journal grows, you can let this string out. I wanted to do it this way because I didn't want to impede any of the lace or anything that was on the side here. Isn't this beautiful? Let's take this off and let's get into this thing. This is a hidden spine. I think I've done one hidden spine since I've been junk journaling, since I've been creating junk journals. And I did not show it on camera. I did not do a video of it. But I understood the concept, and I think this one came out pretty well. 3 signatures in this. I believe there's 10 pages each, but don't quote me on that. All of this, I'll verify the information, and in my description of this video, you will see what is actually in here, okay? So, as you can see, like I said, hidden spine, have some ticking on the inside, and then here's how your spine is adhered, okay? Did a 3-hole pamphlet stitch, but of course you don't see that. So it is a vintage book, believe it or not, but the outside is so beautiful. And that is the reason that I wanted to do the hidden spine, was for this right here, the story of my life. I mean, this book just lends itself to being a junk journal, a journal that you can use, that you can outline, that you can, do daily if you want to, if that's how you want to use your journal. But anyway, let's flip through. You're going to have some coffee dyed pages. Okay, there's going to be a little bit of scrapbook paper in here that's a vintage look. There will be Edith Holden images in here. Okay, this image is glued into, so it will not come out. But on the inside of this envelope is a vintage little order form. This is a little tuck here made from a scrapbook paper, piece of scrapbook paper. And then this is this part is a reproduction of a Montgomery Ward's catalog. Okay, I pulled this out of that. However, this is vintage ledger. Okay. This is wallpaper. It is embossed wallpaper. And then this is a tag, but it's adhered, it's glued in. It has this side tuck. Okay, again, this is a vintage dictionary type page, and this is vintage ledger on the back for you to use and write in. A little collage here with this is a vintage little applique, little mini applique. I loved it. Here is some vintage, I'm going to call it linen, but it's a scrap piece of a table runner, actually. This is not vintage. This is a newer card that I think I got these from Temu. But I did round the corners and I did ink the edges. This, however, is a vintage piece of paperwork. So you'll have that. Here is a sentiment from a magazine. And then the visuals here. This is another piece of vintage paperwork. I think 1944. This is a Sears and Row book, but it's reproduction. Okay, it is coffee dyed, but it is reproduction. It's just meant, you know, I don't know what year that one was supposed to represent. This is grid paper, but it is coffee dyed, and it's been sewn. Here's a stamp page, you know, from a collector's book that you could put your stamps in. And then this lace is vintage. There's the other side of that. This is an embossed piece of scrapbook paper, and it's just luscious. It almost feels like vinyl. It may be, but it's really a luscious page. You could certainly adhere like a photograph or something like that to it. Here's an Edith Holden page here. And then here's your first center of your first signature. I did another journaling card for you. This is vintage lace. This is vintage trim. And this is from that Montgomery Ward's Reproduction catalog. And this is vintage ledger paper. Here's another one of those dictionary pages. This is not vintage. Oh, and then on the signatures, I did some little gold seed beads to hold them in. All three of those will have that. I'm going to flip through this side fairly quick. And I love this image. This one was one of my favorites. I did a fabric flip in this. I don't do a lot of fabric flips. I have fabric flips in my stash because I love to make them, but I don't use them a whole lot. I need to try and use them because I love them. I don't know why I don't. I have this applique here, and if you'll notice, it matches like this design. Actually, this was a happy accident too, by the way. But I decided to leave this open, and it was just wide enough to make like a little bookmark. But there is some journaling space here if that's you so choose. This is that vintage trim too. This is vintage trim. Here's another tuck on this side. This is a vintage index card. This is a vintage telegraph. It is. It's a vintage telegraph form. Here is this trim is not vintage, but isn't she a beauty? She's so pretty. Now, I also have, I'll point this out to you, a little yellow lapel pin is on the edge here. I thought she's so pretty. I've had that for a long time, and it just seemed like the perfect place to put it. Some vintage registers from a hotel, as you can see. I'm not sure. This came in Happy Mail, so I'm not sure. It just was the page. It wasn't the book. Maybe it is a yearbook. Maybe it's the staff from a yearbook. That might be what that is. Here's another magazine page. And then a little tuck here, little book page pocket with some Tim Holtz ephemera pieces. That's what those are. And then here's a bag, one of those bags that we all love. And I'll show you, this is a Tim Holtz acetate butterfly, a little collage on a little repair tag. And this is actually a vintage current note card. Victorian Valentine. Isn't she lovely? I thought this was a really good book to use that one in. So I think this is a Helen Steiner Rice page, and I just added a little butterfly here. This is a floating pocket collage here. And then these are some cards with a little sentiment on the back. But I love the little mushies. I got that in a package that I ordered recently. Yeah. Here's another little one of those cards on the back side of that. Nothing is ever never. Some music paper. This is a lead page, fly leaf from a book. Vintage children's book. But it was not one of those bright, colorful, so I thought it was, I love the images in it. I did like the images in that. Coffee dyed notebook paper with some stitching. This is from an Ideals magazine. So it is vintage. January through March 1976. It's a double belly band. So you have a note card here, and then I'll pull it out so you can see the full thing. And then this is embossed stationery. 1, 2, 3 pages that stack. I've hoarded that for a long time. I have a few sheets left. And here's your second signature. Here's the second signature. Again, you have the little gold seed beads. And I'm going to take these out so you can see the full effect of this signature. Isn't this like, doesn't that remind you of William Morris type wallpaper and stationery and wrapping paper? I love this paper pack. Here is a tall journaling card with some collage. And then this is a canvasy type material that I stamped on. And then that's like a linen field cardstock. I really, really love those colors together. For this signature especially. This is vintage wallpaper I got in Happy Mail recently. Then just a little, this was actually it's supposed to be a coin envelope, and I just went ahead and closed it off because I like the color of it, and it's very soft. So I just went ahead and closed it off. Here is another fabric flip. I did not glue or sew this one in. This is held in by this lovely little paper clip. So you can see here, it can be, you know, if you wanted to, you can remove it. You could glue it in. You can use it in other, you know, other journals that you might have. But that is what that is. And then there's that fleur-de-lis page. Yeah, this has got to be Helen Steiner Rice. Then just some images that I'd cut out from, this is not vintage, this is not, but I thought it lent itself to this book. Then inside this paper bag, or this side of the paper bag, are a couple of little postcards. Not vintage, but isn't it pretty? And then this little note card, note paper. Every time I turn the camera on. Little Tim Holtz folks, and I use them as a tuck. That's that vintage wallpaper, and a little collage on the bottom here. Here's the other side of that. It must be a yearbook. That's what it looks like. And then this is really good paper too, this hotel register. Here's an envelope. And I went ahead and I just wanted to kind of tamp down that white so much. So I just put some vintage photo over that. Little repair tag with a big kind of, I am loving these fat fabric ties. I am loving them. I've seen them recently from some different creators. I'm loving them. This is a vintage postcard, and I can't quite make out the date. I don't know if that says 1966. Just not sure. But it's pretty. I think it's pretty. I think so. It was a tall skinny, so I said, let me use that one. And then this trim, this is not vintage, but it is pretty. And then here's the start of your third signature. And this trim. Here's a little, I made it a tuck, but a little specimen card. And then a fabric tag, raggy tag. We should do a hashtag, call them raggy tags. Raggy taggies. We should do that. And then this is a vintage little receipt. So from a vintage, I'm not sure, I can't remember where this came from. I mean, I know where I had it. I found it at a thrift store. It's a book. I just can't remember what the magazine is. Some ledger paper. Then that is, of course, little map, little drawing paper, certificate paper. Here's another Edith Holden pocket. And I didn't do anything here. I was going to embellish or do something up here. And I thought, you know what? I'm not going to, because I want to show you the package of goodies that's going to come with this. This is a duplicate here, carbon copy type guest check. And I did some fabric at the top and a little collage there. Here's a Greg shorthand page. Edith Holden page. Look how beautiful that. I know we've all seen this, right? Isn't it beautiful? And then this belly band is so far, this has got to be one of my favorites. So this is a vintage. I'm telling you, it's got to be vintage because I've had this in my stash but way before I started junk journaling. But fleur-de-lis, and then some little different kind of rickrack. Can you see how different that one is? And then an index card that has October on it, but you can cover that up if you want. This is from a paper pack. And I just did, these are the moments we dream of. And a vintage bingo card with some collage, a little Tim Holtz person. So Tim Holtz and Edith Holden, a lot of Tim Holtz, a lot of Edith Holden. Then there's your little seed beads. And that's your third middle signature. Here is a little tuck here. Isn't that tuck pretty? It's from a scrapbook paper line. And I had stamped these on this canvasy type material. And then this little side, this is glued in all the way. And I clipped this little, beautiful, beautiful. I've hoarded this. This came in Happy Mail, and I tend to hoard my Happy Mail. And then another one of those cards. They're so lovely. I'll do this, and we can do that. Oh. Yeah. And then this Edith Holden on the other side here. And this is just clipped in with a little rose gold paper clip, and then that. Isn't that pretty? Yeah. And one of the large index cards. But that one is vintage because I didn't have to ink this one. This is natural patina. I did a little tiny stapled in a little cluster there. I left some writing room, and I left some creating room for you, because this is part of the package that you're going to get. It's going to have all the offcuts, but it's going to have, you've got some Edith Holden in here. You've got some envelopes. You've got some a paper bag. There's some of those journaling cards that I made up that I didn't use. There's some tissue, some pattern paper. There is quite a bit of vintage office type paperwork. There's quite a bit of that in here. I wanted to share a lot of that. So that's all going to come with it as part of it. But like I said, in the description, I'll have everything that is a part of this journal, or that will be a part of this journal in that. And in the description, I'll probably list the price. If the price isn't listed there, then I'll have a link on my website so you can go see it there. Okay? Thank you guys so very much for coming along. I appreciate each and every one of you. And I do hope that whatever it is you get to do today or in the next few days, it is at least as much fun as I had getting outside of my comfort zone and creating this vintage Edith Holden inspired junk journal. Thanks, guys. We'll chat soon. Bye.